Awesome. So, good afternoon to all our esteemed customers, senior leaders from the bank, and my dear colleagues. I am elated to welcome you all to this virtual Success Diary series, which we introduce as a monthly platform for our customers and staff members to interface with eminent industry leaders, business pioneers, entrepreneurs, sports personnel, and other inspiring personalities. My name is Virendra Somanchan, and I look after the wealth management, capital markets, and the NRI business for the bank. Today's session of Success Diaries is a special episode and has the two big stalwarts of the industry. Both of them share a common name and also are alumni of a common college. Sri Sanjeev Chadda, Managing Director and CEO, Bank of Baroda, will be the host of the evening. Mr. Chadda is a career banker and was associated with State Bank of India for 33 years prior to leading Bank of Baroda's transformation journey since February 2020. A very warm welcome, sir. Our special esteemed guest for today's session needs no introduction. Sri Sanjeev Bikhchandani is the founder of InfoEdge India Limited, the company that owns leading technology businesses like Naukri.com, 99 Acres, Jeevan Sathi, and Shiksha.com. InfoEdge is also a pioneer in investing in more than 50 startups, including prominent businesses like Zomato, Policy Bazaar, Shop Kirana, etc. Amongst his various achievements, Sanjeev has been confirmed with the Padma Shri, the fourth highest civilian award in India, for his contribution to trade and industry. We'll keep this discussion around 40-45 minutes and then followed by question answers. For those who want to ask questions, you don't need to wait till the end of the session. You can, type your questions in parallel and we'll take it at the end of the session. So without further ado, I would request our MD, Sri Sanjeev Chadda ji, to now kick off the fireside chat. All over to you, sir.
Thanks very much, Virendra, and a very warm welcome to, first of all, Mr. Bikhchandani, and also to all our customers and my colleagues from Bank of Baroda. It's really a pleasure today to have Mr. Bikhchandani here for a variety of reasons. Again, he's one of the first generation of internet entrepreneurs and first generation who actually has survived, thrived, and done so well. Also unique in as much as that not only has he been a successful internet entrepreneur, but he also has incubated very successful businesses. So I can't think of too many people again who actually have established unicorns and also have incubated unicorns. He's also again a very well recognized thinker and an opinion leader. So I think this conversation actually will go far beyond the businesses that he runs. I think what is really particularly interesting, Sanjeev, from my perspective, is that in so many ways, if we look at your biodata, the school you went to, college, IIM Ahmedabad, you would normally end up in a job. You also did end up in a job, but then actually what you did was entirely very different. Now, coming from the kind of background that you did, how did this actually happen? Was it that there was always something which was really bugging you that, look, I don't want a run-of-mill job, or is it something special that happened at some point in time?
When I look back, I think when I was, we are all in our, we all daydream a bit, right? So I was also a daydreamer. Now, if you recall your school days in Delhi, Sanjeev, your school bus, my best daydreaming time was in the afternoon, coming back to home from school in the school bus, staring out of the window and daydreaming, right? So I was a daydreamer. And, so I remember when I was 11 years old, I said I will grow up and bat like Sunil Gavaskar and play cricket for India, right? A pipe dream. I wasn't good at cricket, but there's no downside to dreaming, right? So, but after 6 months, I realized it's still a futile dream. My dream shifted. I saw a Rajesh Khanna movie in Chanakya Cinema. It had just been built in Delhi. And the film I saw was Hathi Mere Sathi. And I came away saying, मैं बड़ा होकर Rajesh Khanna बनूंगा. Okay. Another futile dream. So what shifted from dream to dream, right? All of them unrealistic, right? And then sometime around when I was 12 or 13 years old, I saw a cover story of a magazine with the JRD Tata on the cover. Was it India Today or was it Business India? I forget now which magazine it was. And I was inspired and saying, one day I will start my own business. One day, right? Now, this is one dream that kept coming back, that one day I'll start my own business. In those days, we didn't use the word entrepreneurship. This is my business chalu karunga. Okay, business start karunga. Now, my father was a doctor in the government. My mother was a homemaker. We grew up in government colonies, and we were not brought up to take risks and start a company and get into business. We were brought up to study hard and get into a good college, or do engineering or medicine or whatever. And then write another exam and either get into the IAS or an IIM or whatever, and essentially take up a good, safe, respectable, and respected job, right? And it was an aspiration of all middle class India's parents that their children will do this. Okay, so middle class India had this great sort of quest for financial security. And it was assumed that there was financial security in our job. And it is probably correct also, right? But somehow this dream kept coming back to me. So I did the right things. I studied hard. I got into a good college. I studied hard again, went to IIM. And so whenever required to study hard, I would study hard. But at the same time, this dream kept coming back to me. Now, I worked for 5 years in industry, 3 years before I went to IIM, straight after college. And then 1.5, 2 years after IIM. And then I quit my job. I know this thing kept coming back to me that, I need to do something different from just doing a job. And when I was 27, I mustered up the courage to quit. And a friend and I started 2 small businesses, one after the other. One was we did salary surveys. And the second was we did a trademark search service. And we sort of drifted for 7 years. I drifted for 7 years. And in 97, when the net had just come in, we launched Naukri as my 15th small idea. So I had no dream of doing something big. I was very happy doing something small. And Naukri was started as being something small. उस समय केवल 14,000 इंटरनेट अकाउंट थे इस देश में. तो नौकरी कोई बड़ी चीज नहीं थी उस टाइम. छोटी चीज थी, छोटी तमन्ना थी, छोटी सी आशा थी. But right place, right time, worked hard, worked smart, got lucky. It turned out to be big.
So I think you are possibly modest, and to my mind, you were still even then different, right? So given you said you had your ideas when you were going home from school in your school bus. I think for the other chaps, given where the school buses were parked outside Convent Jesus and Mary, I'm sure they had other ideas in their mind when they're in the school bus, right?
मेरे वो भी idea थे.
Right.
I was not restricted to one idea.
Right. Excellent. But the fact is that, as you said, 14,000 entrepreneur internet users. So this is, you might say, the last thing that one would think of in terms of a business idea, right? Given the fact that nobody could have dreamt the kind of scale it would acquire. So was it always intended as an internet business, assuming that there's going to be a scale up, or was it a business which was internet enabled in due course?
No, so I'll tell you. So for 7 years, I drifted and did maybe 15, 20 small things. Then we launched Naukri as seemingly one more small thing, right? Because केवल 14,000 accounts saves हैं.
Right.
अगर shared user भी लोग केवल 2 lakh user, maximum, right? So we, when we started this, I had no idea it will become big. We had a simple sales target, right? Sales target was that if we can, get 1,000 companies to pay 500 rupees to list one job a month and get 1,000 companies every month, we will do 5 lakh rupees sale a month. यानी कि साल का 60 lakh, right? Now in 1996, we had done a 12 lakh rupee turnover. We broke even, doing other stuff. I was doing a salary survey, right? And I wasn't taking a salary. So a company at 12 lakhs could break even and not pay me a salary. I'm doing a salary survey. I said, if we can do 5 lakhs a month in 3 years, we get there. So 60 lakh ho jayega. 60 lakh में profit ठीक हो जाएगा and I can take a salary. So my limited goal was to get to 5 lakh rupee a month sales in 3 years, do 60 lakhs a year, and take home a salary which would have been comparable to a salary had I continued in my job. Right? But 10 साल से मैंने नौकरी नहीं की थी. So that was a simple goal. So along the way, internet grew, venture capital happened, internet exploded, mobile telephony happened, internet over mobile happened. So ये सब होता गया, which I had not anticipated, actually.
So I think it's a very interesting point, particularly again in terms of how the thinking process works, right? The fact that you again were targeting sales, and I think I've read at places also that you believe that, look, an entrepreneur must again at the beginning look at targeting sales rather than vision, right? That's what counts. Now, how do you really, since you have been such a successful incubator, you're a mentor to so many people, how do you again put it to them again the importance of again short-term viability vis-a-vis long-term vision?
Let's take the case of Zomato, right? When we invested, it was called Foodie. Now, I have got in my laptop a whole archive of emails that Deepinder Goyal and I exchanged from 2010 onwards, which is when we invested. Now, in 2010, I have an old email, right? I think around August, September. We invested in August. I think by October, November, I have an email which says, "Dear Deepinder, can you send me cash flow projection for next month?" Now, this is a time when they were doing 1 lakh rupee a month of sales. We had just invested and we asked for cash flow projections and they gave it also. So, hum itna karenge har mahine, agle mahine, right? The point is that we have always emphasized revenue and profit and cash, and all our investing companies to understand the importance of that. But the environment changed. Environment changed that this tsunami of capital came in from overseas with TARP, with quantitative easing. And the Fed from 2009 to about 2022 kept printing its way out of trouble. Right? And that led to excess liquidity, that led to some of that liquidity coming to India across all markets, public markets, private markets, early stage, late stage, mid stage. And competition began to get funded, and therefore our investing companies did not have much of a choice but to raise the money in order to survive and then scale the business the way competition was and say we are conscious of profit, we are conscious of cash flow, but that priority will come later. Right now we have to compete and there's capital available to both us and our competitors. Now the environment has changed. अब पैसा कम है, tightening है, contraction balance sheet है, interest rate ऊपर जा रहे हैं. But psychologically, I think some of our investing companies, many of them, are actually well equipped to deal with this change environment.
So I think another thing which has struck me as really unfashionable, unique again in terms of what you did was in how startups look at corporate governance. Somebody could be excused for saying, look, startups are like commando units, right? Corporate governance comes when you become an established company. But I think you yourself, set up an example when you actually took up a board position in Make My Trip. And you said, look, whatever I get by way of sweat equity comes to InfoEdge because I'm putting InfoEdge's time at the service of Make My Trip. So how do you look at that as a philosophy? Is it something that can work for a startup, or again, it's tough again to have these ideals when you actually have so many other problems in life?
So actually, I believe corporate governance begins and ends in the management head or the founder's heads. If you're fundamentally honest and want to be honest, right, you will be all right in corporate governance. But if you are okay to take shortcuts, fundamentally not all that honest, you will find ways around every measure of corporate governance. You will find a way around an independent director. You will find a way around a statutory auditor. You will find a way around an internal auditor. You will find a way, right? So, pehle to the founder has to be honest. The management has to be honest. I want to be honest and clean and run a straight company. This thing came to me. See, we were brought up to be honest. Our parents, that's our school, college. We were brought up to be honest, right? But I took that for granted and never thought about it too consciously. But around 1994, or was it 93? This is before we got Naukri. I was faced with a situation. So we had been invited to put up a proposal to do a project, a market research project. for a private sector multinational company. So we put in our bid, and I think we had quoted some 30 or 40,000 rupees for the project. So we were called in saying, listen, we want to give you the job, but this is one-on-one, a meeting with a mid-level manager in that company. So the project is yours, but can you raise the fee by 30,000 rupees and we can split the difference? And I was taken aback, right? And I said, let me get back to you. So I came back home to my office and my home, and I thought about it. I really tossed and turned, thought about 3 days. On a 30,000 rupee project, you get 15,000 rupees extra profit. It's significant, right? This 94 with, this much money mattered, it was not a small sum of money in those days. And I thought about it. And then I finally said, no, I don't want to do this. I said to myself, and I got back to him and said, I don't want to do the project at all, at any price. I don't want to work with you, right? And since that day, I was very conscious of the fact that, what I had taken for granted, I now have to articulate it. That we were always honest, but now we have to articulate that we're honest. And this is the way we do business, right? So that thing stayed with me since then, that we have to be conscious of now. Now, when we were raising venture capital in Feb, March 2000, 2-3 conversations हुए मेरे. One was with a prospective investor who had given us a term sheet. And he said, Sanjeev, in life, in your business life, create situations of convergence of interest and not conflict of interest. Which means that everyone you work with, your shareholders, your colleagues, your employees, whoever, you are creating structures where you are all aligned and on the same side of the table and putting together, as opposed to having, divergence of interest. So create situations of convergence of interest. That's very important. Now, to make my trip example, now that sort of penny dropped in my head. Okay, I'm honest, but here is one specific situation where now in make my trip, if I am taking my time and some of my time and putting it there, if my shareholders don't benefit, right? And I'm also a shareholder, right? So I'll get my share of the benefit, right? Then there's a situation of divergence of interest and not convergence of interest. कि मैं और time दे रहा हूँ, फायदा मेरा हो रहा है because I got ESOP there. मेरे बाकी shareholders फायदा नहीं हो रहा है. And therefore, I said that the ESOP should go to the company. I will benefit because I'm a shareholder in my own company, but so will all my other shareholders. So there is that. The other thing I tell you, so as part of the shareholder agreement with ICICI Venture in the year 2000, they had put a condition that you will appoint a statutory auditor to our satisfaction. Now, it's a clause tha. So we signed the agreement, but within 1 month they said, okay, now we want this clause, as per this clause, we want you to get a Big 5 auditor. And I said, boss, our turnover 36 lakh hai. We are making a profit of 1.8 lakhs a year, PBT, only because I'm not taking a salary. So I said, go to a Big 5 auditor, so pura profit gaib ho jayega. So I resisted, but they insisted. So I went shopping. I went to each of the Big 5. One said 10 lakhs, one said 5 lakhs, all of that. And I came away dismayed. And finally, I met a gentleman by the name of Kaushik Datta, who was a partner at Pricewaterhouse. And he said, what do you want? I said, I want to audit in 1 lakh rupees, annual fees. So he said, done. But on 2-3 conditions. Number 1, we will increase audit fee every year till such time as we reach a regular audit fee, and we'll increase in proportion to your turnover. As your turnover grows, we grow audit fee, right? I said, okay, accept it, but first year 1 lakh. Okay. Second, he says, look, if I'm only charging you 1 lakh rupees, you have to make my job easy. So I said, sure, how? He says, number 1, boss, I want complete transparency and disclosure. Koi beimani nahi. I should not have to second guess you because मेरे को मेहनत करनी होती है to be that diligent and thorough. So if I'm confident you're honest, I can do it in less money because I think that's guaranteed. वो तो हम वैसे ईमानदार हैं, ठीक है? Then he said, And one more thing I'll tell you, that you have to internalize and accept and understand that your statutory auditors and your independent directors are there to save you from yourself. Right? We are not policemen. We're not antagonistic. We will support you by saving you from yourself. If you tell me you understand that, and that is the attitude that will sort of permeate all our conversations, then I will take up the audit. I said, done. Right? So, this is the foundation of our formal journey through corporate governance. Although from day one, we were honest, this is the foundation of our formal journey through the intricacies of corporate governance, and we have stayed that way.
So just in terms of the businesses, so just looking at the kind of disruption we are seeing, so AI is becoming something which is probably again in the next few years going to redefine how we work, and particularly for your businesses, InfoEdge in particular, it could actually be foundational in terms of change. So how do you really look at your own businesses, how AI could transform them? And also, again, if you look at the broader category of internet-enabled businesses, what is the kind of change that you see and how fundamental could it be?
So, look, most things in life are evolutionary and not revolutionary. What appears like a revolution is because you only just found out about it, but it's been going on for decades.
Sure.
Okay, so I'll give you a little example. So around 2000, I think 6 or 7, we just gone public, right? We were facing a problem with some of our products, right? Problem was what? कि नौकरी पे बड़े सारे resume हैं, ठीक है? There are lots of resumes, millions of resumes, अभी करोड़ों में है, right? If you do a search on the resume database, as recruiters do, HR managers do, for example, अगर आप search करोगे हमारे, so we have got, I think, 7.5 crore resumes right now in our database, growing at 20,000 a day, right? Roughly. Now, if you do a search for BTech computer science, 5 years experience in keyword skills, C++ Java, location Bangalore, शायद आपको 4 लाख resume आ जाएंगे या 3 लाख आ जाएंगे in the find. Now, because of that, a recruiter has spent a lot of time going through so many resumes to shortlist the ones he wants.
Yeah.
What that tells us is that there are many unarticulated criteria which a recruiter has in his head. While shortlisting a resume, let's call it judgment. Now, if there is a way to harness that judgment, the unarticulated criteria, what is the recruiter thinking? How does he further apply his intelligence and judgment to shortlist or not shortlist a resume? Right? When he sees 3 lakh resumes, उसको 50 निकालने हैं. कौन से 50 निकालेगा? Right? If somehow we can harness that and only show those 50 resumes at the top, we will save the recruiter's time. उसको 3 लाख नहीं देखने पड़ेंगे. वो पहले 50 में कर लेगा. Now, if you can do that, we will win over competition. Now, this is a non-trivial problem to solve. It took a team of 3 people 2 years to come out with an algorithm around 2008-9 that addressed that issue. And when we did that, our clients, our entire sales team were astounded. Now, the techniques we used in 2008-9 will today be called borderline AI or machine learning. Borderline, right? उस टाइम jargon name ने इस्तेमाल किया, हमने केवल ये कर दिया, right? So we've been doing it for a decade and a half. It's just not been called. We didn't call it AI. So while ChatGPT is interesting, I do believe it's the tip of the iceberg. Many more things will happen. Already, so ChatGPT आया. Within 3 weeks, we learned कि भाई all students are cheating. They are using it for the essays.
Yeah.
Right? अब उसके बाद within a month, another program has been developed which detects कि ChatGPT का ये essay ChatGPT से बनाया human ने लिखा है. So it will all evolve. Ultimately, I do not believe human beings will be substituted. They might be substituted in some low-level tasks. Right? I also use ChatGPT. Right? And I have learned, at least thus far, and ChatGPT will improve, I'm sure, but thus far at least, if you put a query to ChatGPT in an area where you have expertise, you will discover 5 things wrong with the answer it gives. If you're not an expert, or you know next to nothing about it, you will be happy with the answer you get because you're not an expert. So I'll give you a simple example. I'm a Sindhi, right? So I just put a query. Please give me a recommendation of a menu for a Sindhi dinner. And recommendation came out. I cut paste that and put it on my larger extended family group. Right? And within 10 minutes, 2 of my cousins responded, "Bhai, this recipe of Sindhi curry is wrong." Right? So then I did a second query. Give me a recommendation for a Gujarati dinner. And I sent it to a Gujarati friend. Within 10 minutes, his wife sent me a message, "Bhai, ye galat hai." Now, I had no expertise in Gujarati. I took it at face value. I said, "Jahan expert tha, usne to fault nikal diya." So I think ChatGPT is great progress. I do believe as of now it's not fully evolved. I also believe that there will always be other solutions coming out, which will find out whether ChatGPT is being used or not. Right? If you ask ChatGPT for an opinion on a legal matter, right? You and I may be happy because we're not lawyers. Apni legal department, he'll find 10 things wrong with it.
Right.
So, there's some distance to go. It's in my view.
So I think that also, again, some way the related part is really the pace of change. So we have seen, again, the world transform before our eyes, right? So as we were discussing just before this, we started, Asia at 72, you had those small transit sets, and it was such a blessing to listen to the commentary on them. And that was really the epitome of technological marvel at that point in time to, again, today's time. But the fact is that we have seen it come bit by bit, stage by stage, and as personalities, we have got adjusted to the change. It's not been disruptive in terms of our personal lives or our organizations. The bank, again, I joined SBI. So it's really transformed itself, but it's been manageable change. Do you believe, again, as we move ahead, is the pace of change going to be something which is going to put fresh strains in terms of viability, longevity of business models? Or as you say, change is normally evolutionary, and therefore, again, we need not be too concerned that it may be something that we might find difficult to handle as businesses and organizations.
If you are open and a learning individual, learning organization, and you adapt and evolve, most changes are not so fast that they will blindside you completely and not give you the opportunity to evolve. Right? अब आप देखिए, हमने नौकरी लॉन्च किया 1997 में, right? In the year 2000, raised venture capital. At that stage, people had said that perhaps placement agencies, recruitment firms go out of business.
Yeah.
Right? आपको शायद याद होगा, लोग ये बोल रहे थे. We took a call saying that, listen, we are not going to compete with placement agencies. They can also use our services and benefit from it. And so we opened our platform to everybody, including placement agencies. Today, 14,000 recruitment firms are our clients, 14,000. Roughly 25 to 30% of the revenue comes from them. Right? They have benefited from us, we have benefited from them. And also corporates directly use us as well. Now, the placement agency, the recruitment firm that is not adding value beyond trading in CVs, that model would not work. You add value beyond trading in resumes, because resumes naukri.com ke paas hai, right? You have to do your shortlisting, your matching with the organization requirements and culture, and that's where you add value. So agencies migrated up the value chain. They were no longer doing mere information arbitrage, because the information arbitrage piece we filled, and today you have agencies adding a lot more value than perhaps they were 25 years ago, by and large.
Sure. And
everybody survived, and everybody's evolved, and everybody adapted, and we are all part of the same ecosystem. So we've got to sort of be open to adapting and changing. and innovating, and you'll be fine.
So again, from your vantage point, and again, you have.
Let me give you a banking example.
Yeah.
आपको याद होगा 1985-86 में how when computers first began to be introduced in banks, कितना resistance था.
Correct.
Our jobs will go, we'll be replaced by computers. आपको याद, now it seems absurd looking back. How could that fear have been there? But it was a real fear. But ultimately, that did not happen. Everybody's using computers, doing more with with their time. It's a productivity tool. And nobody actually lost their job because the computer came into the bank.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So again, Sanjeev, from your vantage point, and you have commented again, both again as a citizen and again as an entrepreneur. So you have a ringside view in terms of how the nature of employment is changing. You also commented on the Agniveer scheme, that you see it as something which is a positive, that you would have again trained individuals available to various private companies also. It's also interesting in terms of that might be commentary in terms of how all employers, including the government and the army, look at the nature of employment. So do you see that changing fundamentally, that we are actually moving away from a model of lifetime employment, careers which again remain almost linear in terms of progression, to something which is entirely different? How do you look at that?
Sanjeev, if I look back, right, I think from the 90s, maybe even early to mid 90s, right, no fresh employee in the private sector even spoke about lifetime employment.
Yeah.
Right. Till the mid 80s, when I joined the workforce, it was a huge concept. He joined one place, stay there for life. You switch maybe 2 or 3 jobs in your career of 30 years. Right. Today, youngsters do what I call is snacking on jobs. They try a whole bunch of things for 2 or 3 years, maybe 6, 7 jobs. Switch at the drop of a hat for a 10% higher pay, right? Before they settle on something they like and hopefully do it for a long time. Okay? So the youngsters, the next generation, right? And the next, there's even a difference between what is called millennials and Gen Z. Right? My daughter, who's 29, describes herself as millennial, and she describes her younger brother, who's 26, as Gen Z. 3 साल का फर्क है. Okay, but the behavior and attitude to the workplace is very different. So among Gen Zs, you will find, I think, more than the workplace or the expectations of people of our generation who are heading the organizations, it is the Gen Z and their current attitudes towards work in the workplace that will lead and define this change. So हमारे हाथ में नहीं है. The new generation employees के हाथ में है. Right. And I see a huge difference there. They don't want to work anywhere for life, at least not right now. Maybe it'll change. Maybe it's to do with the booming economy and therefore so many options being available. Maybe it's because, what was your salary when you started out here in 19? When did you join SBI?
So 3,000 rupees in SBI.
3,000 rupees. Which year was that?
So that was 1987.
Okay. So I started at Lintas in 1984 at 1,500 rupees a month.
There you are.
Okay, and we were lucky. We were privileged. We consider ourselves, oh, thank God, I've got this job. So वो अब attitude नहीं है इस generation में, or which may be a good thing, maybe a bad thing, I do not know. But अब फर्क है, and फर्क, is being the difference, the change is being led by the employee and not the employer.
Absolutely. So again, a related question again is in terms of education. And I ask you this question because of the fact that you are a founder of the Ashoka University, which in so many ways is putting a new model of education before us. How do you look at education? How do you look at institutions like Ashoka University, the importance of liberal arts? What would be your advice to, again, my colleagues, their children, the young employees of the bank? How should they look at education given the environment in which we function?
No, I think, so I'll tell you why we started Ashoka. We felt that a new model of teaching liberal arts was needed in this country.
Yeah.
So if you look at the Indian education system, the higher education system, right, or even from class 11 onwards, right, there are some predefined silos, and you get into a silo, and then you stay in that silo. Yeah. So अगर आप इकोनॉमिक्स पढ़ रहे हो कॉलेज में, you only study economics in Delhi University. I mean, earlier. अभी थोड़ा change हुआ है. And you will do some minor subsidiary subjects which don't really count. So you can afford to not study them and just pass the exam, right? If you're doing science in school, you're doing science. You can't do biology and history.
Yeah.
Okay, you cannot do. You just can't. That option is not available in any school. Okay, and even if it was available, the college you're applying to will not know how to treat your application. Yes, no biology and history here. Is he eligible for my course or not?
Yeah.
And therefore, how should I treat his marks? Right? Now, we have inherited the system from the British. हमारे यहाँ British system चलता है because वही चालू हुआ था. You choose a subject and you study it. You can't study 5 subjects and then decide in college. And if you look at the American system, which is in college, you can choose. I mean, you have a width requirement. आपको कम से कम 6-7 एरिया से कोर्सेज करने हैं. उसके बाद, at the end of second year, you declare your major, and then you can choose your major. Right? So, हमारे यहाँ होता है, अच्छा ये नंबर नहीं आया, you can't do economics. Right? अशोका में क्या होता है कि once you join Ashoka, you have to do a minimum number of courses across 6 areas, and then you decide what you want to major in, whether it's economics, or it is political science, or it is history, or it is physics, or whatever. And we felt that real life is not about a silo. Real life is about 360 degrees, and therefore it's a good idea for you to study courses across disciplines. You can join the doctor better across disciplines. And very importantly, you should not be forced to declare a major until you have sampled and experienced enough courses to decide मैं किसमें major करूँगा. Right? And therefore we started Ashoka with that perspective in mind, saying ये हमारा different model है. Right? What is I now read in the new education policy जो published हुई है last year. Very similar principles have been adopted.
Yeah.
Right? Which is a good thing. It's a progressive thing, in my view. Right? And that's the way I think that's a very, very good necessary. The new education policy economy is a very good and necessary reform in higher education in India. Right? So I would say for those of us who are slightly older on this call, for our children, एक जमाना होता था कि बॉस do engineering, do medicine, do CA, do IAS, ये 4 ही career option है. Right? Now I think there are 5,000 career options. Let your children explore. It's okay.
So anyway, you did biology in school and ended up doing economics. So I think at least you were halfway there. I think quite possibly. But I'm sure, given the choice now, you probably would have elected to join Ashoka University, right, rather than St. Stephen's College.
Possibly so. Although I'm a loyal Stephenian as well.
Right.
I would not say. I would not say conclusively. I am a loyal Stephenian, and yes, I am a founder of Ashoka, and both are precious to me.
Excellent. Very, very nice. So thanks again, Sanjeev. I'll now throw it open for questions to my colleagues.
Sure.
Yeah, so, we have a bunch of questions, actually more than 100 questions, actually. I was just going through those, and those range from what you mentioned on ChatGPT. A large part of the questions are on Naukri.com. And, also there is a very nice question which has come from related to Shark Tank. So I think the question is, if, you are a prominent investor, any likelihood of us seeing you as a shark in Shark Tank India? And a related question which they are asking is, we've seen great ideas taking shape, but only very few are able to make a transition to the genuinely scalable business. So what are the factors which are impacting these businesses?
So let me deal with Shark Tank first. So no, it is not likely that you will see me on Shark Tank. So I was invited earlier, and I did not go for 2-3 reasons. Number one, shooting Bombay में होती है, and it required 9 trips to Bombay. I'm in Delhi. It required 9 trips to Bombay, a period of 3 months to do the shoot. I could not commit that time. Okay. Second is, see, we also invest as a company. We have a VC fund, right? As we talked about corporate governance, Sanjeev, as part of our corporate governance, there's an explicit rule that the executive directors of InfoEdge cannot make personal investments in unlisted private early stage tech companies, because that would conflict with the investing activity of the company. मुझे deal आई, मैं खुद करूंगा company में डालूं. I have no choice to do it myself. I cannot do it. Right? So, okay. And therefore, I could not make personal investments. So I couldn't, as a shark. Number 3, even if I say I'll go and invest company money, the truth is we have a process. Against part of governance. Process is investment committee hai, proposal banega, 3-4 meeting karoge, diligence karoge, फिर invest karoge. So this model of saying yes or no in 15 minutes or 20 minutes would not work. Therefore, I was constrained to say no. Right? The second question, just repeat that. I'm sorry. Why companies don't scale? Okay, first one.
I'll also, there's a related question so that you can answer it together. I think there is a question for you from one of our employees. Madan Sabnavis, who's also a chief economist.
Hi, Madan, how are you?
So he's saying, sorry, he can't reply back on this platform. So, but he's saying, I'm Madan, your classmate from school and college. My question is this: we have seen that globally around 80% of startups perish within 3 years of their operations. In India too, we have seen that IPOs of some of the startups have created a controversy. What has really gone wrong? Is it that these ideas are not scalable, or is it that the entrepreneurs just started an enterprise and then get in a PE investor and get their money and then quit? Or is there something which we are missing? So I think you can answer for both questions.
So let me put it this way. I think for the longest time, Indian capital markets, by law, you could not list a loss-making company, right? Also, Indian investors, by and large, were uncomfortable giving a price and value to a loss-making company the way a private investor was okay, and the way a US market might have given, right? Now, the law was changed, and for a while, it looked like the Indian markets would accept a loss-making company, because that is a global trend. Now, a few companies went public, including 2 companies in which I invested, Zomato and Policybazaar. And for a while, they were trading above the IPO price. But as the global market corrected because of Fed contracting its balance sheet and raising interest rates, which led to people, and therefore the tech correction in the US, which then spread to India. Okay, so the companies have not changed, markets have changed. Now, the market has clearly told these companies, get to profit if you want to be valued the way you were valued. The smarter companies, the smarter entrepreneurs are responding well to that signal. And both Zomato and Policybazaar, where we are invested, are conscious of this, and therefore are hopeful and confident that soon enough they will be profitable. So, and that's how markets work. And frankly, I think it's, public markets impose a good discipline on companies. They are much more perfect, or closer to being perfect, than a private market, because today you are valued every minute, every hour, and you are accountable. Much more accountable than in private markets, and that's a good thing, in my view.
Yeah, thanks. There are a lot of questions on Naukri.com in particular, but I'll just pick up this one question. What are the few innovations that Naukri.com is driving to keep up with the requirements of the highly dynamic job market in India?
So, India has, on Indian job sites, have a slightly different problem as opposed to job sites in the US or anywhere else in the developed world, right? And that is a problem of numbers, right? How do you deal with such large numbers and show relevance or relevant, so jobs and CVs to each audience, and that requires solutions which nobody has developed anywhere in the world. So let me give you a little example. It's quite similar to the example of the resume database I talked about earlier. If you put up a job on an Indian job site, you may discover that there are 500 applications, of which only 20 are relevant. Because it costs people nothing to apply to a job, and people are trying their luck. And India has a large population, and therefore a large number of people trying their luck. Now, in the US, for example, you don't have this kind of problem simply because A, there aren't so many people. B, those people who are there recognize that it's futile to send my application to a job that is not relevant for me because I won't get it. Right? Yahan pe, the Indian audience are not yet of an age, we are a much younger population, or a maturity to realize, understand that they're going to try their luck. Now, आपने job listing की, आपको 500 response आ गए, 500 responses. Let's say 480 are irrelevant. Right? Now, you have to go to 500 emails to find the 20 relevant ones. It takes a lot of time. We call these 480 applicant spam. So, if through our innovations and product changes, we can reduce applicant spam. Okay, or we can reduce the pain of applicant spam by somehow prioritizing and highlighting the ones which are relevant and think these are less relevant. So have a relevance score, right? And then order the application in descending order of relevance. The recruiter can greatly benefit. This is just one example of a problem which we are continuously solving and getting better and better and better as compared to competition. Right? There are at least, maybe 50 to 75 innovations a year, many of which the user does not see because these innovations are working behind the scenes in algorithms, right? To make it a better user experience, both for job seekers and for recruiters. And for this, we are using our software, using data, we're using, when we started Naukri, we could not even imagine the kind of technology we have to develop and deploy. And we're getting better and better at it.
Yeah. Okay. I think there are some questions from our clients to Mr. Chadda also, but I think, Mr. Chadda, can I ask you one question on behalf of...
So it's fine. Otherwise, we can, I suppose, today the other Sanjeev, right?
Sanjeev, the customer comes first, always. So please go ahead.
There you are. Okay.
What in your opinion is Bank of Baroda's role in transforming India's economy to becoming the third largest globally?
Yeah. So I think it's broader question on what is banking role and of course in terms of BOB's role. So I see it again at multiple levels. One is again in terms of we talked of technology, right? So I think the fact that we make sure that we harness technological innovation to make the best products available to our customers, that we are able to save costs, become more profitable, that's something to my mind which is fundamental. So we launched Bob World about 1.5 years back. Today we have 25 million customers, which means that today actually the bank can grow 20% a year without actually growing costs in the same proportion. I think so therefore, as we go ahead, making sure, as Mr. Bikhchandani said, that you are always open to change and making sure that you harness change is the fundamental piece. Second, we need to recognize as a bank that we actually, India lives in the 19th, 20th and 21st century simultaneously, and so do our customers. So we're very proud in terms of our role for financial inclusion. So BOB again makes disproportionately the largest contribution in financial inclusion, 6% market share, 17% share in Jan Dhan accounts, right? So this is, to my mind, again, equally important again in terms of a social mandate, important in terms of the future of the bank, because these are 60 million customers, the customers which are actually going to rise up the prosperity curve and really grow the middle class, and therefore bank will grow along with them. The third part I think is what is important is again in terms of the credit piece in India. So we are still again grossly underpenetrated as a market. I think we have the responsibility of making sure that we again use credit constructively to power 1 million entrepreneurs, to power your dreams and to make India grow. So I think for us, I think if BOV can be at the center of all these three trends: A, technology; B, again, in terms of really building the dreams of our customers; and C, in terms of, again, those customers today who are at the bottom of the pyramid but are going to be tomorrow's customers for the bank.
Yeah, I think thanks, sir. I think this is clears pretty elaborately in terms of the broad picture. So coming back to Sanjeev, I think while there are some questions, I also had some few questions. Can I ask?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you obviously had a fantastic career in terms of both entrepreneurship and as an investor. But in that journey, you would have had made some mistakes in the past. So when you look at hindsight, some of those mistakes, any mistake you would want to share, which you would like to rectify today?
Well, you can't go back in time, and what's done is done. So I don't think much about rectification, but we try and learn from the past, right? So I believe we underinvested in technology in the early part of the Naukri journey, largely because we did not have a tech co-founder. There was nobody from tech at the top of the table, at the top table, right? And I think that was a miss, but we rectified it in about 4 or 5 years. And along the way, sort of, I've had great guidance from friends, from mentors, from our board, from our advisors, colleagues. And it was a friend of mine who's advising us, and he's a classmate from school who's a professor in computer science at Princeton University. And he said, listen, you're underinvesting in tech. And he said, set yourself a target that in 3 years' time, 10% of your workforce will be tech. At that time, we had about 500 people in the company. And maybe we had a tech team of 10 people. So he said, you're short by 40. Right. Now, gradually, over the years, we compensated for that. Today, I would happy to say that we are today more a tech company than a sales company. So we are a tech company, and we have transformed. So I would say it's important to be able to perhaps get a sense of what the future holds and be prepared for it by gearing up for it today. And we ideally should have had much more tech, in the company in the beginning. You're on mute. Right?
Sorry. Sorry. So, okay, there's one more question from our executive director, actually, Mr. Jyotiprata Roy. He's asking, is loyalty now pass in today's Gen Z mindset of snacking on jobs? In this context, how should employers re-strategize on their employee value proposition?
In my head, no. I think if you look at our senior management team, we've had huge stability over the last 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. So while attrition in the company may be high at junior levels, it's very low at senior levels. What it tells me is that there are, as you grow senior, you become more loyal, or the more loyal become senior, at least in our company. And I think this kind of stability and continuity is good for the company, because that's how institutional memory is preserved. That's how continuity happens. That's how you implement long-term strategies, or even conceptualize long-term strategies, because some people are thinking long-term because they have a long-term view of the company. So for me, loyalty and commitment is really important, along with performance and excellence. A mediocre loyal person is not a good idea. A very bright person even 1 year is not a good idea. You need both.
Absolutely.
Now, as far as senior management company is concerned, what they should do is, look, people will filter themselves out and filter themselves in. You need to have good filtration mechanisms where you reward people and you incentivize them to stay long term and contribute. It's slightly easier for a private sector organization to do than a public sector bank, because in the public sector bank, you will have your rules, you will have your boundaries and constraints. But even there, I think it's possible.
Sure. Again, last, I think 4-5 minutes, so I'll just get a little offside. If you were to host a dinner party and invite 3 famous people, who would you invite and why?
I think I'd invite Amitabh Bachchan. He may not accept, but I invite him, right? Right. I would invite, I think, Sachin Tendulkar. Okay. And I would invite, I think, Bill Gates.
Lovely.
None of them will accept. None of them will accept, but I'll invite them.
Okay. All boys dinner, is it?
Well, actually, that's a good point. Good point. Maybe I should invite Zinat Aman as well.
Yeah. So we have a diverse dinner group now. That also actually says probably who's your favorite actor and heroine. So any movie which you have sort of cherished over the years, Hindi, English, whatever.
So I don't watch a lot of movies, but now it's a lot more because with on the mobile and things. But look, so here's this: when I was growing up, right, the entire neighborhood, the whole colony had 2 or 3 TV sets. Okay, Doordarshan would telecast for 4 hours a day, 3 hours a day. And if you had to see something, we'd go and crowd into a friend's place who had the same. They were 25 hours watching TV, right? And television was considered, hey, it's a distraction. It's not a good idea. And movies are a distraction. You can't go for movies more than once a month, right? So we didn't grow up on a diet of TV, of internet, and movies, right? We, used to study and used to play and used to read, okay, and that was considered wholesome growing up. So I come from that background, that era. Okay. Now, having said that, so I'll go back to the movie Sholay. It was released in 1975. I first saw it in 1980. Right? I was just not into movies. So all my friends saw it in 75 and they would talk about it. So I knew all the dialogues of Sholay before I saw the movie. 5 years before I saw the movie, because all my friends were imitating Gabbar and in school. So I knew every dialogue. For 5 years I knew it before I saw the movie for the first time. And since then I've seen it 3 or 4 times. And I remember I think COVID ke samay jab lockdown hua tha, right? In 2020, I stumbled upon Sholay in either on YouTube or one of the OTT channels, and I actually watched it again. It was still as good.
Yeah, so it's truly evergreen.
And today, while Gabbar Singh may have been a villain, he said a few important things. Okay, one he said, "Jo dar gaya, so mar gaya." So be brave, right? And it's okay, be courageous. Other is, he said, "Yaad rakhunga." It's important to not forget. So actually, there's philosophy in what Gabbar Singh said.
No, absolutely. So if we ever get to host that dinner with Amitabh Bachchan, Zinat Aman, Sachin Tendulkar, and we'll do a live telecast of the Sholay movie and probably auction that dinner out so that
We will do that. Yeah.
Okay, I think we've done the entire 1 hour, and it was a very, very inspiring, deep journey into your own struggles and the achievements you've had. I'll hand over now to Senthil. Senthil.
Yeah. So very good evening to all as we come to end of this wonderful session, which was excitement and also interesting all through. To sum it up, Mr. Sanjeev Bikhchandani spoke on dreaming in the school bus, inspiration on the magazine cover for entrepreneurship, corporate governance in Make My Trip, view on AI, Chat GPT, change, and finally on his Ashoka University. So on this note, we extend our heartfelt thanks to all our esteemed clients for joining this virtual session of Success Diaries today. Our special thanks to center stage speaker today, Mr. Sanjeev Bikhchandani, co-founder and executive vice chairman, Info Edge, for taking out his time, patiently responding to all the questions and sharing his experience to the audience. We are grateful to our MD and CEO, Sri Sanjeev Chadda sir, for chairing the session. Sir, your presence brings great value to this platform. Also, a big thanks to all our colleagues from Bank of Baroda for joining the session. Finally, our thanks to anchor Sri Virender Somvanshi, Head Wealth Management, Bank of Baroda, for anchoring this event, and also to our wealth management and marketing team for facilitating a seamless session. The session today also endorses our commitment to get prominent industry stalwarts like Sri Sanjeev Bigchandani to this platform, making it more interesting and engaging. Once again, thank you all for joining. Here we sign off. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.